Hi, I'm Carolyn, and with the ppl.Kickstarter, I help startups, scale-ups, and SMEs in tech to manage people well, to craft company culture intentionally, and to maximize impact with compelling communications along both. Because with the power of these three, you pull your team together long-term and are able to build a long-lasting, successful company. So in today's episode, we have Priska Burkard from TechFace, and we're going to talk about diversity in companies, in startups, all things related. I'm really glad you're here at Video House in Zurich.
Thanks a lot for having me. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Me too. So we did a little prep talk just the minutes before we started recording, and it was already super interesting. We were talking about statistics and issues we see, but let's start with getting to know you a bit more. What does TechFace do?
Yeah, so with TechFace, we're in the market here in Switzerland for about 5 years, and our goal is really to increase the diversity in the tech industry here in Switzerland. We do different things to reach that goal. So on one hand, we support the candidates, the women who want to get into the tech industry or are already in the tech industry and are looking to broaden their experience or their career. And we offer them support by, for example, a podcast as well, talking about different roles in the tech industry. But we also organize events on different topics. We have blogs with more information about technology, but also career topics. We do talent matching event. We organize the We Tech Together conference, which is the biggest conference for diversity in tech in Switzerland. And we just help them to find opportunities for themselves. So we also just recently launched a platform that allows them to create a profile that focuses on their skills and expertise. And companies can search on this platform for candidates based on skills and expertise. And on the other hand, it's something we recently started doing more often or more intense, because we realized once we have talked to a lot of women, there are a lot of women out there interested getting into the market, but we still see the struggle in the company. So the match or this gap between the female tech talents and the companies are not yet bridged as much as it should be. So we started working closer with the companies by coaching them, by giving them more information about how they can become more inclusive and more diverse. How can they build a culture that is more attractive for female tech talents? And also, of course, giving them the access to all these female tech talents through the platform so that they can fill their talent pipeline with diverse candidates for today's and future position in the tech industry.
Wow, that is a lot to unpack.
It is.
Where do we start? So you said you focus on females, bringing them into tech. So that instantly triggers the question, is diversity about gender? And what else is it about, if not?
Not at all. Actually, the biggest diversity group is ethnicity, and it's not gender. Gender is only the second biggest one. But the reason why we focus on gender is, first of all, it's something we experienced ourselves. So me and my co-founder, we are both from the tech industry. We've gone through all these different stages in the tech industry. We know how hard it is to be a woman in tech. For example, being in a meeting where you're the only female and you have to really be more assertive, I would say, not aggressive, but assertive. So it's a big difference. And that's why we said we focus on gender. That's one of the reasons. And the other reason is also we believe that something that works with gender diversity, that works for all kind of diversity. But as you said, there are different kind of diversity. I mean, it's ethnicity, gender. Then we're also talking about people with disabilities, for example. That's also a different group of diversity. But for me, it's also diversity in regards of where you're coming from your career. So you might have worked in a different industry. So it's also when you move into a tech job and you're coming from, for example, the pharma industry or healthcare, that's also some kind of diversity. It's also diversity in regards of roles. So if you move from being a developer to being a project manager, for example, that could be also some kind of diversity. So it's a lot of different levels of diversity. We want to reach in the tech industry, but we believe if we focus on one and target just this one, the rest comes off automatically.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And you said that there are lots of women actually who are interested in working in tech. So that is, well, to me, it's not that surprising because I've been in tech for my entire career too, and I've never been afraid of it, if you will. But you see an actual interest. Is it rising as well?
Yeah, because I mean, technology is the future. Every single day there is something about technology happening bigger in the world where we talk about. And I mean, the last big thing is like ChatGPT, for example. So every day we are confronted with technology. We have our mobile phones. We touching technology from the moment we get up in the morning to the moment we get to bed, and even at night we are connected to technology. And I think more and more people become aware of how much we get influenced by technology and how important it is that we have everyone on board if we're talking about developing the technology for the future, because otherwise we are running the risk that we develop technology just for one group of people. And that's going to be pretty tough for the world if we keep on doing this.
That is a perfect transition to the company side, and especially to startups as well, because we are builders as startups. We want to build something new. How present is what you just said, that products are kind of replicating bias or replicating just one group of users with startups? How prevalent is that? Do you see that?
Yes, I think with a startup, you might have even a bigger problem because you need to focus on so many things when you start. You have so many, especially if you're a first-time startup or entrepreneur, you have so many things you have to think of, and you automatically put that as the least one you're gonna focus on in the beginning. But it's actually it's gonna hit you harder than later in the process. But I fully understand if startups are telling me we don't have time to take care of a culture or hiring for diversity or whatever. I fully understand, but it's important that you focus on that a little bit as well, building up your startup. And I think in a lot of companies there is this kind of limit where things start changing with 50 employees. And if you build a company, you have 50 employees and you have a very homogeneous workforce, it's going to be really hard to change then, because you have built a culture at this point in time. And changing a culture in a company is such a big task. So a lot will give up on that and just keep on going with what they have. So that's why it is important to think about it from the beginning. Yeah, it can actually happen that you end up with a culture that's totally not supportive of your business objectives or pushes you into a direction where you don't want to go. And like you said, turning that around is so hard, because what do? Do you like let all these people go simply because all of a sudden you realize that it's not heterogeneous and it's kind of limiting your productivity, or innovation is coming to a halt or whatever? I mean, you cannot just then make a 180-degree turnaround, right? So that's not possible. And what else do they, I mentioned it with innovation, but what else do companies or startups, scale-ups miss out on if they do not look at building a diverse team? I mean, innovation is for sure one of the bigger trigger, because it is proven that a more diverse team are building more innovative products. But at the end of the day, from this, it's also the revenues. So if you have more innovative products, you will gain more out of it also financially. So you will increase your revenues over time as well. Your products are getting better. You can sell it to more people because you are including more users in your products that you're selling. So I think this is more obvious to go for more diversity than anything else. Yeah. Do you have contact with investors or that group in the startup ecosystem as well? And do you know whether they pick up on the diversity topic, or are they more like... I do know a few VCs. They're mainly led by women who are working or focusing on increasing diversity in their startups. But I see a lot of VCs, they don't really care about how diverse their teams are. They care about the products. And I mean, I've just recently been at a presentation of a VC, and I was actually shocked to see how few women they had in the startups in their portfolio. And it's for me, it's like they talk about it, but then it's the question of what do you do about it? And on the other hand is also that there are not many female entrepreneurs out there. I think it's about 20% of the startups where you find female entrepreneurs. So we need to think about, why do women not go into entrepreneurship, or what hinders them to build their own company? I think that's also a bigger question to ask.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing to ask. Wow, I wouldn't even know where to start unpacking that question. But another statistic that just came to mind is that only 2% of funding go to female founder teams.
And the funny part is there's other statistics that prove that female-led or mixed team-led startups make more on the invested dollar than only male-led startups. But still, I mean, for me, it's amazing to see how many research there is proving this point, but there is no action. I mean, like any other research, if that comes out and say, oh, you make more money if you do X, Y, Z, everybody's like, let's do that. But in this case, it's not that much happening.
Why do you think that is? Is it too hard? I mean, some would say, you know, I'm building a company. There is this person bringing all the skills that I need. So it would be insane to send them away simply because they have the wrong gender. I just cannot afford this luxury of then saying, you know what, we are 10 people and I want to have a diverse team. So no, but I'm most likely ruining my chances of success. So
I think when we talk about how to get to these co-founders or partners or employees to diversify your team, you can't just talk about the specific point in time when you hire. You need to look at the whole process. So if you already start in the wrong place to look for talents you want to hire, you will never increase your diversity. So you need to think from the beginning, where can I find diverse talents? And so if you keep doing what you did before, expecting, oh, now all of a sudden you get more women applying for your jobs, well, it's not going to happen. I mean, I think Albert Einstein said something nice about this. So if you do the process over and over again, the same way, expecting a different outcome, that's insanity, something like this. Was it?
Yeah.
And I think this is where they need to start thinking. So where can I find diverse talents to start with? So change where you post your jobs, or maybe even go to events and start talking to people, because it's also proven that depending on the industry, 60 to 80% of the jobs in Switzerland are never advertised because it goes through network. So you have to build up a network. You have to start talking to people. You might come across someone who has exactly the right skills or expertise, but is coming from a different industry, but that could be a perfect match for you.
Yeah, that's very true.
You don't find them by posting a job, because they're not going to apply to your job. So the times of post and praise are definitely over.
Yeah, certainly.
Long time.
Certainly. And then there's that other aspect of how you actually write your job adverts, and the language itself can like push them away. So that's even another thing to be intentional about. How do I word what I'm looking for? And then where do I actually like share that, what you just said? Where's the talent? Where's the pool of these people that I intentionally want to pull in, and not just be on the standard job portals or whatever.
With all other hundreds of job posts.
Okay. So we kind of already said two things that you can do as a startup if you feel like, hey, that's something I want to do. It's important to me as well. So we said you can look at your job advertisements, how you write them, etc., and then you can look for talent pools. What else would you say is something that does increase diversity in a way that I, as a startup, can afford to do?
I think it's also important as a startup is what kind of culture you want to live, and that starts with you as the leader of this startup. What's your vision? How do you want to enable people in your company, and how do you communicate this? How do you inspire your own employees? And building this culture, an inclusive, diverse culture, will attract more women, because word gets out. I mean, Switzerland, especially Switzerland, it's a small country. People know about you. And if you do something good, equally as you do something bad, word gets out, people will talk about it. So if you can build a culture where your employees feel like they belong to, they can be themselves, they can bring them in, they will talk about with their friends, and that goes further. That's how you can also attract more talents to your company.
Yeah, that's very true. Word of mouth is a very strong channel for talent to be aware of your employer brand, and then to actually what's your employer brand, and then to actively apply once there is an opportunity. I've heard that before, and that people have kind of wish lists. If they ever hire, I will be one to apply. That's very good.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you just listed all the categories or the dimensions of diversity very beautifully. So I would like to dive a bit deeper into these. So it's diversity, then it's equity, not equality. It's equity. Maybe you can share a few words about that. And then it's inclusion and belonging.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, diversity is it. I see diversity is often also diversity of thought. So what is the experience you made before you can bring into a new team? How the way you think, which is it's very different. It's even among the same group of people different, the way we think. But we need to be open to listen to each other and kind of take into what other people are thinking and consider it as an option, or maybe have a combined option of different thoughts, and then we get to inclusivity or inclusion. It's basically how can we make sure that everybody can be included in the process and can contribute the way they would contribute, or they can basically bring value to the process, to the product, whatever it is that you do. So that's then the inclusion part. And when we get to belonging, we're talking about how do people feel? Do they really feel I am part of this? I can be myself. I don't need to be someone different to belong to this group. I can really be myself, and then I belong there. So I think this is how I would explain this free part. And then, as you mentioned, there is equity, equality. And the difference is when we talk about equality, it's that everybody has the same chance to, for example, get a job or to bring themselves in a discussion or contribute. That's equality. But more important for me is also equity, because we won't reach equality without equity. And equity means that wherever you are, that wherever you are, your position is that it adjusts so that you can reach those opportunities from the position you are. So a simple example would be if you say, oh, everybody has access to education through online courses, which is great. Yes, everybody can access, but you forget those people, and there's still a lot of people who don't have internet access or have very weak internet access. So for them, it's going to be very hard to do these online courses. Yeah. That's not equity. So you need to make sure, well, if you don't have access to internet, so either you provide the access to the internet that they can do the courses, or you need to find different sources so that they really are in the same position as everybody else and can reach the target. So that will be then equity. And once you build this, you can also make sure that you get to equality at the end of the day.
That's super, super interesting. My brain is just running through all these things. So what I need to look at is how I organize things, how I make things available. For example, channels, how people can give feedback, share new ideas. I like to think of no stupid question policy, for example. So it's a funny thing, kind of. But on the other hand, if you picture it, would you dare asking any question that comes to mind? Let's say there's an idea to do a new feature for the product or to go into a new market. Would you dare speaking up saying, is this a good idea, or whatever specific thing that you're questioning? Or would you fear that somebody laughs at you, looks down upon you, feels like, oh my goodness, what kind of question is that? You know, kind of you lose your standard or your status, something like that. So to get to that point, I think it's really a lot of effort you need to put in. And then that just propelled me to what you said earlier, that there's the importance of how you build your culture, right? So where do I start when I say I want this culture that includes people, has a diverse team, so that we have lots of innovation and revenue? And then at the same time, they should feel they belong and everybody has equal chances to get to the same result. How do I do that? Where do I start?
Very difficult. I think the start is really just analyzing where you stand right now. So find out, talk to your people. What do they think about you? What like you as a company, not you as a person, but what do they think about the company? How do they see themselves? And I mean, you can already feel there if they're very open and honest about how they feel and they think. You know already there is a psychological safe environment built in your company that allows you to change culture or influence the culture. But that's going to be difficult. But I think the first step is really understand where are you at today. And then the second step is, what do people think outside the company about you? So those who maybe have applied once for your job, or those who are your customers, your clients, how do they see your company? And I think this is very important. Also, how do you communicate with the client? It reflects the culture as well. And so I think taking this status quo and really think about how do people see, but this is the most difficult step, because it also means you need to be brutally honest with yourself and be acceptable for things you might not like to hear. But if you're ready to take that in, then you have done the biggest work already. And from there you can identify, okay, what does not belong here, or what is it that I don't envision this company to be, or what is it that I liked about what I heard, and how can I push this further to be more this kind of company I want to be. Yeah,
I think it's very difficult to stick to that. Like, let's say I go through that process. I write all that down. I exactly know where I stand. I know exactly what the team wants. I know exactly how clients or customers are viewing us. And then we need money, and we start raising, and then there's a VC or a business angel, whatever, and they want to invest. And then it becomes pretty clear what they expect, and it does not align with all these things that I've just figured out. I think it's very hard to decide, will I let my business die, or will I sacrifice? Is what I just found out, and it's important to me. Is there a middle ground? What would you do?
I believe there is, because of course, a business can always die for various reasons. But if you a strong believer in your values and your purpose, you will always find a way to keep your business alive. It might go not the way you want it to be. And to be honest, this is what I had to experience. I had a complete different vision 7 years ago when I started, and I had to turn and change. But what I stuck with was my vision and my purpose. So this was for me more important than changing my business in a way that I would, for example, attract more investors. This is where I said, no, I don't want that. And I think this is what makes culture. And if you have a good culture, people will stick with you, and they will say, yes, maybe we have to go now down a little bit to basically figure out how we're going to change without having the investors we were hoping to, because they don't agree to our values or the way we do business. But they will stick with you through the bad times, and you will be happy to have them through the good times. And even if you have to maybe lay off, they will leave your company with a good thought about your company, saying, I would always return because they did something good. And I mean, you saw beginning of the year when the big tech companies lay off a lot of people. I mean, for me, it's not understandable. How can you say, I want to go to one of these big companies? They just lay you off when they feel like, oh, we don't have enough money, but still making big numbers of revenues, but just being feared of losing, and we just lay off people. We don't mind. And there is one guy in the US. His name is Dan Price, and have you heard of him?
Yes,
And
I know him.
I follow him on LinkedIn and see his posts, and especially during the pandemic. I mean, what he did was for me very amazing because he just stuck to his values, his vision and his purpose. He was laughed at the beginning. They said he's going down in history and being part of Harvard University textbook, being the worst company, doing everything wrong, and exactly the opposite happens. And for me, he is a good example of he just stuck with what he believed in, and he found ways to make it work for him and the company. And I guess we can all do this. Yeah. But it's hard. You always get influence from the outside, from your friends and family, and everybody knows better than you anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Dan Price, yes, he's quite impressive. Everybody laughed at him. And thought he was crazy. And one thing he did is he raised the salaries to a minimum, right? And then everybody was like, what? Why would you do that? You know, you need to stick to skills and performance and da-di-da. But people really love him for that. And then that's the other thing that I just read recently, that pay is not the number one motivator once it's considered fair. So he did that, and then he proved the point, kind of. Do you know how diverse his team is? Is that one of his principles?
I don't know, but I believe it is, because I remember when he was doing this with the salary, the story behind was that he found out that some of his employees were very poor or coming from poor families, and they had to take second jobs to survive. And that's why he decided, they should not wear them out by having more than one job and raise the salary. So I believe there must be some kind of diversity in his team as well.
True. And pay also often points back to the gender pay gap. Gender pay gap is a big thing as well. So he kind of eradicated that in one go, right?
Absolutely.
And made that equal. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So another thing that's quite interesting that always comes up when people talk about bringing in diverse talent in regards of also different pay, different hours of work. Like in Switzerland, we work with percentages. So it would be 30%, 50%. And some groups of people, you only get them if you offer reduced hours, if you will. So not full time, let's put it that way. So oftentimes I feel like it's a lot of management burden to have diversity. So it's counterproductive, or it kind of erases the effect. So I have a more diverse team, I have more innovation, but then at the same time, I need to have more management. I need to be more on top of things. They talk to each other simply about what's going on. What do you think about that?
It's a big topic, and it's about leadership at the end of the day. And for me, leadership means to build a common vision for your company and to enable people to reach this vision. That's, for me, leadership. And if you're able to do that, it doesn't matter if you have a diverse team or non-diverse team, because basically everybody knows what to do. And yes, of course, you might think you need to manage more because you have to talk. It's easier if you have people that think like you and talk like you. You just throw a couple of sentences and you know exactly they do whatever you want them to do. But what happens if you're not there? So it's everything isn't dependent on you. And I think especially in the startup, and this is where I understand when investors coming in and say, we don't want to have a one man or one woman show as a startup. We want a team behind the startup. Because if something happens to you, and touch wood that nothing happens, but you never know, or you're not there, and an urgent decision must be made. You want your people to be up front and not behind you. So I think micromanagement is, anyway, if you do micromanagement, you've done anything wrong. So definitely think about what you've done wrong, because if you start micromanaging, you have other issues than diversity.
Yeah, it's that feeling of control, right? Exactly. And you can't control anything. No, so the sooner you learn that you can't control, the better for you, because you will be free of that burden.
Yeah, absolutely. So. As I said, I think you need to talk to people And the more you invest, the more they will be enabled. So you might have in the beginning, you need to invest more time and have a bit more management task. But even if you believe your management task for 5 minutes a day, that's anyway wrong. So you need to spend a bit more time. But over time, when they understand your vision and where you want to go to, you don't need to manage them so much more. So I think it's just like in the beginning where you invest more time.
Yeah.
But, it was also for a friend of mine. I used to work with her in a big company. Now she's in a smaller company, and she told me recently she has someone in her team with a spectrum on autism. And she said it's so much different to talk to these people. And in the beginning, she was a little bit worried. I need to think differently. But the funny thing is, she said, she learns a lot from working with this person, because she needs to be more precise on what she is saying. She can't just do fluffy stuff expecting he or she knows exactly what to do, but she needs to be more precise, which makes her think as well about what she's talking about, and maybe rethink the processes she's going through, or like when she explains anything, she needs to rethink as well, which gives her the opportunity to learn as well. So I think never underestimate when you have a diverse team how much you get back from different kind of people as well. Yeah,
I love that she starts reflecting on how she does things, because that will translate into business processes, and that will translate into the employee experience. And then in the end, it will be more inclusive for everybody, you know, because it takes it to a different level.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Absolutely.
Nice. I heard about people with ADHS as well. Like they have this hyper focus, for example, and then within a few hours, they are able to just produce results. And we would not be able to do it in that speed or capacity. So there is something there that is absolutely worth exploring, right?
What I think is funny is you hear more and more people having ADHS, which wasn't the case 30 years ago. I think we all have it in us. And this is also that what we build, this standard way of working from 8 to 5, from Monday to Friday, is no longer working. And I think it worked when you talk about manufacturing, where you have like the process that is always the same. Yeah, you do it from 8 to 5. But nowadays, manufacturing is done by technology. You don't need to do the same manual workload anymore, or like movements anymore as we did before. What we need now is creativity, and creativity has no 8 to 5 hours. Creativity happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe at 2 in the afternoon when you go swimming, or when you play with your toddlers or whatever. So there is where creativity happens. So we need to think about how can we foster more creativity, because that's going to be the main differentiator between us and machines.
Yeah, that makes total sense too, because what you just said is from Taylorism, when you know the processing, the lines were invented, and it was just about how can I split work into pieces, and then you would just do that part of the work, and then the next person would do the next part. And now the machines do all that, or we kind of reintegrated that and they now do even more in one go than when it was split into different people and jobs. And now we are in the position to do more of the creative work, the thinking and all of that, and be more innovative again. And at the same time, it is a great opportunity, I think, to humanize work again. Because by then it was all about being productive and create as much output as possible, but in a very limited, how can I say, space for the mind and the body. You know, you were there in that fabric or whatever.
Absolutely.
And you just did what you did. And now we have this opportunity to go beyond that.
Yeah, but what that needs, and I think this is where we struggle, even myself a lot, is changing the way we measure work. Because so far it was easy measure work by number of hours. You need 5 hours, I pay you 500 Swiss francs, whatever. But nowadays we measure work by output. So maybe I need 5 hours to produce an output. Someone else produces it in 1 hour. But should I earn more than this person? Because the end product is the same.
Yeah.
And I think this change of mind of how do we measure work, the output, the value, that is not yet happening. It's slowly coming. I try to work this way, but it's always hard when then people ask you, so how many hours do you need? And I say, it doesn't matter how many hours I need. It's the value I bring you.
Absolutely.
This is what you need to look at. But yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, the result itself and how valuable it is to you. Yeah, value-based pricing is another thing that points into that direction as well. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, I do have that as well, the time for money thing. And I see it with people around me. And then, how many hours does it take you? And it's just not relevant, right? Because the result is a fantastic piece of whatever. So that should actually like set the price or the salary, right? I mean, that's the other thing. How do you do that in the workplace?
Yeah, that's the difficult part with the
flexibility and autonomy and everything that people are looking for.
But the thing, especially when we talk about flexibility, it's not only that a certain group of people want to have flexible work hours or reduced work hours. This is the future. I mean, this is Gen Z is asking for this. And this is exactly when companies, startups, and also existing companies need to start rethinking their employment rules or setup, because the question is not how many hours you are going to work, is what is it that you can bring me in this whatever percentage, and what is the value I need from this person. And if this person has the right skill set to produce this value for me in this amount of time I need, then why do I bother about how many hours they work for me? Yeah. They're not going to work 100% anyway if I employ them 100%, believe me. They will
find a way.
And we all been there. I haven't met any person who told me they go to work from 8 to 5 and work hardcore 8 hours. You always have breaks. So.
Yes, that's important too. Yeah.
But I think this goes hand in hand. So when we start thinking about more producing value, we will be able to work more with flexibility and part-time, as we call it now, part-time. We shouldn't even call that part-time. I mean, part-time of what? We defined 100% at one point in time, but is this still valid? Yeah. So it's just start thinking about values, and then it's easier to manage flexibility and how much you want to work at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then once I figured that out for my business, I think it automatically attracts diverse talent, right? Because then I start looking at what are the skills, the traits, the characteristics I need for that, the experience, less than looking at, okay, I need somebody who has done marketing management for 8 years and they are able to work from morning to evening. But I rather look at, I need this task to be completed. And so what is the best talent to do that? And these factors around that are less important, right?
Absolutely. And on top of that, what I believe that will bring us also the opportunity that you have more career changers. So again, it's the end of the result is the value you bring in, but maybe you need 10 hours because you're a beginner in doing this. So it takes you more time to build up your skills and expertise. And someone who is experienced might only take the 5 hours, but it gives you the chance to also get the education and learning. Whereas if you constantly say, you have this amount of hours and you need to do this value within this amount of hours, you will never be able to get there without learning. And how do you learn if you're not getting an opportunity to learn? It's like we're not born with all these skills. And the schools, honestly, I think great schools out there, they teach you a lot of theory. They're not going to teach you how to use it in the real environment. You need this to learn this as well.
A funny thing is, well, it's funny and sad at the same time that learning continuously is one of the biggest motivators for us humans. So that's another thing, how to attract people, right? Or talent, if you offer these learning opportunities. So it's kind of contradictory, but I think certainly something that companies, startups, scale-ups can afford also to bring in the talent they're looking for. It does not need to be huge paychecks all the time, like we said earlier. Very cool. Priska, that was a lot. We touched a lot of things, but we did share like what you said. How do you start building a more diverse team? Does it relate to culture? It's never too early to start with it. It might be a bit overdone to be too soon, but always keep it in mind, have the right mindset, look for these things soon enough, look where you look for talent, how you look for talent, and how you build everything around it, the offerings you have, the experience. So I think it was really, really valuable what you shared. I'm so happy you were here.
Thank you very much.
And if you would like to learn more about what Priska does with TechFace or what I do with the People Kickstarter, we put links down here. You click them, check them out. Also our LinkedIn profiles, email us, DM us, whatever works for you. We'll be happy to get to know you. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, give it a comment, or share it with someone who might find it helpful too. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon at the next People and Culture Stories. Take care.